Okay, let's unpack this. Stress. I mean, it really is like that uninvited guest, isn't it? It seems to show up everywhere. From the small daily stuff to those really big life challenges. Sometimes it just feels completely overwhelming, like you're just stuck. But the sources we've been digging into today, articles, research bits, practical guides, they reveal something pretty important. It seems we actually have more control than we often think over how we respond to it all.
Yeah, that's a really crucial starting point because, stress, it is universal. We all face it. But what our sources really make clear is when it tips over into being chronic or just totally overwhelming, that's when it seriously impacts your overall well-being. So having effective ways to manage it, to find some relief, it's not just a nice idea, it's pretty essential for your health, your quality of life.
Absolutely. So our mission here, really, this deep dive, is for you listening. We want to comb through these insights and pull out the most impactful stuff, really actionable strategies, things to help calm your mind, calm your body, both right now and for the long haul.
And I think the core message really from all the material is fundamental. There's no single magic bullet here, no one-size-fits-all fix for stress. What works great for one person or in one situation might do absolutely nothing in another. So the real goal isn't finding the solution, it's about building a diverse toolbox of strategies, different tools you can pull out depending on what's stressing you out and what you actually need right then. Having options is just key. Things change.
Right, like you're not going to pull out a yoga mat mid-traffic jam, are you? Even if that's your absolute favorite thing at home, you need different tools.
Exactly, different tool for the job.
And conveniently, the sources we looked at help organize these. They kind of break strategies down into categories based on, well, timing and approach. So we're going to look at what they call fast-acting techniques for immediate relief, then long-term strategies more about building resilience, and then a slightly different angle called problem-focused coping, which is about changing the situation itself.
Precisely. And maybe before we jump into those categories, it's worth just quickly hitting that simple truth again. Stress happens. It's inevitable. But your response, that's where you have some control. And when stress does cross that line, becomes overwhelming or chronic, that's when having these relievers ready to go is, well, absolutely necessary for your well-being. A very toolkit is just your best defense because, like you said, life throws different stuff at you.
Okay, let's dive into that first category then. The immediate fixes, fast-acting strategies. The beauty of these, and the sources really highlight this, is that you can use them basically anywhere, anytime, for relief right now. And they often don't need much practice. Many are free, just perfect for when stress hits hard and you need a quick shift.
Yeah, these are your in-the-moment tools, your emergency kit, kind of. One really interesting one mentioned is guided imagery. Think of it like a little mental mini vacation you can take instantly.
A mental vacation, how does that work?
Well, the technique involves closing your eyes and really vividly imagining yourself in a peaceful place, your happy place. Maybe a beach, a forest path, somewhere deeply calming for you. But the key is engaging all your senses. What do you see there? Hear, smell. What's the texture under your feet? Maybe even taste.
Ah, so it's not just picturing it, it's like really immersing yourself, trying to trick your brain a bit.
Exactly. You can use guided recordings, especially at first, or with a little practice, just close your eyes for a minute or two. Mentally walk yourself through that scene, focusing hard on all those sensory details. It's a surprisingly powerful way to shift your focus away from the stressor and kickstart that relaxation response.
Makes total sense. Taking your mind somewhere else, even briefly, can break that stress cycle. What else offers that kind of immediate break?
Meditation comes up a lot, and the sources point out its double benefit. It gives you short-term relief right now, but it also builds major long-term benefits if you stick with it. There are different types too, like repeating a calming word or phrase, a mantra with deep breaths, or practicing mindfulness, which is more about focusing intensely on your immediate sensory experience, like what do you actually see, hear, taste, touch, smell right now in this present moment.
Oh, interesting. So mindfulness isn't escaping the present like the imagery. It's anchoring yourself in it, which I guess stops your mind from just spinning on worries or future anxiety.
Precisely. By tuning into what's actually happening around you now, you interrupt that rumination cycle that feeds stress. Definitely takes practice, but yeah, it's incredibly powerful for grounding yourself. Another one, focusing more on the body, is progressive muscle relaxation.
Progressive muscle relaxation.
Yeah.
Okay. What's involved there?
So this involves systematically tensing up and then consciously releasing different muscle groups in your body. You usually work your way, say, from your head down to your toes, often after taking a few deep breaths first.
So you actually tense up first, just to feel the release more.
Yes, exactly. The practice helps you become really aware of where you're holding tension. Most of us do it without even realizing it, and then it teaches you how to actively let it go. With each muscle group you relax, you should feel this, like, wave of calm.
I can see how that would work.
And maybe the most basic, always available technique is just focusing on your breathing.
Breathing. Yeah, it sounds almost too simple sometimes, doesn't it? Can it really be that effective when you're really stressed?
It does sound simple, but changing your breath pattern is genuinely one of the fastest ways to tell your nervous system, hey, calm down. The sources give simple techniques, like inhale slowly through your nose, count to 3, let your belly fill up, hold for maybe 1 second, then exhale slowly through your nose, counting to 3 again.
Okay.
Or you could visualize breathing in calm air and breathing out stress and tension. The great thing is you can do this anywhere, totally discreetly, and it has a really quick impact on your body and brain.
That's crucial for those moments where you can't just, step away. But speaking of stepping away,
Taking a walk, another great fast-acting strategy. Simple, yes, but it gives you that vital change of scenery which can instantly shift your perspective.
right.
Plus, you get the immediate mood boost from a bit of light exercise. Even just 5 minutes around the office or the block can help.
I love how accessible so many of these are. No fancy equipment needed. What about connecting with others? Is there anything quick there?
Getting a hug from a loved one specifically. And here's where the sources mention some fascinating biology. Physical touch, especially hugging someone you care about, actually triggers the release of oxytocin.
Ah, the cuddle hormone.
That's the one. And research links oxytocin not just to feeling happier, but importantly for stress. It seems to actively reduce the stress hormone norepinephrine. It can also help lower blood pressure and just bring on a feeling of relaxation.
Wow. So it's not just a nice feeling, there's actual chemistry happening that's fighting the stress hormones.
Yeah.
That's genuinely surprising.
It really is. It shows the power of connection, of touch. Then there's aromatherapy. The research here is still emerging, but it suggests certain scents might actually alter brainwave activity and potentially decrease stress hormones.
Interesting.
So using calming scents, maybe candles, diffusers, even like scented lotions could be a simple, pleasant way to tap into that.
Okay. And the last one on this quick relief group, something creative.
Yes, engaging in artwork, tapping into your creative side. Now, this could be drawing or painting, sure, but the sources specifically call out adult coloring books.
Oh yeah, those became really popular.
They did, and particularly coloring complex geometric patterns. Research actually suggests that focusing on coloring these intricate designs can have a genuinely meditative effect, and it's linked to reducing anxiety levels.
So picking up some colored pencils isn't just, a fad. It's actually backed up as a way to find that meditative calm.
That's a great practical tip. Okay, that really rounds out a fantastic set of tools for those immediate, need help right now moments. Absolutely, very accessible, and they can give you that quick shift back towards feeling centered.
Okay, so we've got the quick fixes covered, the immediate relief stuff. But stress isn't always like a sudden wave, is it? Sometimes it's more like a constant low hum in the background. So how do we build up our defenses? How do we get better equipped to handle stress before it gets overwhelming? Which brings us nicely to the long-term strategies. This category, as I understand it, is more about cultivating habits, building a lifestyle that promotes overall wellness, making you more resistant, more resilient to stress over time.
Exactly. These are more like the foundational pillars for stress management, and eating a balanced diet is absolutely crucial here. The sources draw a really strong link between poor diets, lots of processed foods, high fat, high sugar, or relying on emotional eating and increased stress reactivity.
Reactivity.
So you
react more intensely to stress.
Yeah, your body's stress response gets exaggerated. They point out, for instance, that refined carbs cause those blood sugar spikes and crashes, which can actually increase feelings of stress and anxiety. It's a cycle. Whereas a consistently healthy diet actively combats stress. They even mention specific foods like eggs, avocado, walnuts for supporting mood and energy.
So it's not just about physical health in isolation. What you eat directly impacts your body's stress handling system.
It's a direct biochemical link. Absolutely. Another area the sources touch on, presenting it quite neutrally, is stress relief supplements. They suggest things like, a daily multivitamin might help if you have nutritional gaps, which can affect stress. And they list some specifics, referencing studies, things like melatonin for sleep regulation, because we know poor sleep makes stress worse. Ashwagandha, that's an adaptogenic herb thought to help the body build resilience to stress. L-theanine, which some research suggests helps reduce stress, promotes relaxation. And B vitamins, which some studies link to lower stress levels and better mood.
Interesting to see those specific ones highlighted based on the research they reviewed. What about, just making time for fun, for things you actually enjoy?
Make time for leisure activities. Yes. It sounds obvious, maybe, but the sources really tackle that common feeling of being too busy for leisure. They argue quite strongly that you have to consciously build leisure time into your schedule. Don't just wait for it to happen.
Right, because it never does just happen.
Exactly.
Right.
Because investing in activities you enjoy, they mention things like gardening or quilting, whatever it is for you. It doesn't just help you feel better, it actually helps you perform better when you are working. It can make your focus time more efficient.
That's a powerful way to think about it. Leisure isn't just downtime, it's actually performance enhancement.
In a way, yes, it fuels you, it prevents burnout. Another absolutely critical long-term strategy mentioned is develop a positive self-talk habit.
The voice inside our heads.
That voice, it has a profound impact on stress levels. The sources contrast that harsh, critical inner voice, the doubt, the self-blame, which just ramps up stress, with the need for a more realistic, kinder, more compassionate internal dialogue.
It's not about pretending everything's perfect, though.
Not at all. It's not forced positivity. It's about actively noticing that negative self-talk when it crops up, and then gently, realistically, countering it with something kinder, more balanced, more constructive. Doing this consistently builds a healthier outlook, helps you manage emotions better, and actually leads to more positive actions.
So you're kind of actively coaching yourself.
Yeah.
Building an internal support system.
That's a great way to put it. Cultivating an inner ally, not an inner critic. Practicing yoga is also highlighted as a really powerful long-term resilience builder.
Why yoga specifically?
Well, it's presented as this unique combination. You get physical movement, meditation, light exercise, and controlled breathing, all rolled into one practice. And while even one session can offer some relief, the sources really emphasize that consistency is where the magic happens. That's what unlocks the significant long-term physical, psychological, and maybe even spiritual benefits.
It bundles several good practices together. Makes sense.
It really does. Another powerful tool on the list is expressing gratitude.
Gratitude. How does that fight stress?
Well, consciously focusing on what you're thankful for does a couple of things. It helps you appreciate the good things in your life, obviously, but crucially, it also reminds you of the resources and support systems you already have available to cope with stress. And realizing that is incredibly empowering.
Okay, so it connects appreciation with recognizing your own strengths.
Exactly. The sources cite studies showing that people who regularly practice gratitude tend to have better mental health, lower stress, better quality of life, and they suggest simple habits. Like maybe at dinner, everyone says one thing they're grateful for, or keeping a simple gratitude journal.
That connection between gratitude and recognizing your coping resources.
Yeah.
That's actually a really insightful link. I hadn't quite framed it that way before.
It really shifts your perspective, doesn't it? From feeling overwhelmed by problems to recognizing your capacity to deal with them. And finally, maybe predictably, but importantly, prioritize exercise. This is presented as just fundamental, non-negotiable for stress management and mental health.
Right. Get moving.
Yeah. And the sources emphasize that the specific type of activity matters less than doing it consistently. Gym, classes, outdoors, walking, lifting weights, kayaking, hiking, spin, whatever works for you. Just regular physical activity is essential.
So these long-term strategies, they're really about proactively building this foundation, this buffer, a lifestyle and mindset that shields you a bit.
That's it, exactly. They create that underlying physical and mental well-being. It lets you weather the storms more effectively when they inevitably arrive.
Okay, so we've got the immediate fixes, the in-the-moment stuff, and we've got the long-term habit building for resilience. Now let's explore that third angle the sources mentioned, problem-focused coping. This sounds different. It's not about changing how you feel about the stress, right? It's about changing the stressor itself.
Exactly. This is about taking direct action on the source of the stress, tackling the problem head-on. One really practical strategy here is to reassess your to-do lists.
My to-do list is definitely a source of stress sometimes.
Right. The sources really nail that feeling of being perpetually overwhelmed, just trying to cram too much in. It's a major stressor. So the advice is pretty direct. Look for ways to genuinely reduce your workload. Can you step away from commitments that aren't essential? Can you delegate tasks? get help with chores that are piling up.
So it's admitting the volume is the issue, and the fix is to literally lighten the load, not just manage the feeling about the load.
Precisely. And tied into this, the sources also mention improving your time management skills, being more organized, more efficient. It helps minimize those unavoidable stressors. Life just feels less rushed and chaotic when you get things done without that constant pressure.
Makes sense. What else falls under problem-focused coping?
Another absolutely critical one is to obtain social support. The sources are really clear. Having supportive people in your life is fundamental for managing stress effectively.
Okay, but what if you feel like your current network isn't quite enough or isn't the right kind of support?
That's a key point. The material stresses the importance of actively seeking that support if it's lacking. That might mean consciously making an effort to reach out more to existing family or friends, really confiding in them, or it could mean actively expanding your network, maybe joining clubs, organizations, finding relevant support groups, or even seeking professional help, like therapy.
So it's viewing a lack of adequate support as a problem itself, one that needs a direct, proactive solution.
Exactly, you're addressing that environmental factor, the lack of support. And the final strategy in this category is, well, simple conceptually, but can be powerful. Cut out things that add to your stress.
Stop doing stressful things.
Well, yeah, where possible. Sometimes the most effective relief comes from identifying things in your environment or habits that are actively contributing to your stress and then removing them. The sources give concrete examples, like maybe constantly watching distressing news cycles, or being perpetually tethered to digital devices, the constant pings and notifications, maybe relying too much on alcohol or drinking way too much caffeine. Making conscious choices to reduce or eliminate these kinds of things can significantly lower your overall background stress level.
So instead of just trying to cope with the stress these things cause, you identify them as the problem and take them out of the equation if you can.
It's about changing those external inputs that are just making things harder than they need to be.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered strategies for right now, those quick fixes. We've talked about building long-term resilience through habits and lifestyle, and now actively tackling the stressors in our environment. That is a massive toolkit we pulled together from these sources.
It really is quite comprehensive, and the sources, they wrap up by emphasizing one last really critical point: finding the strategies that work best for you. That takes time. It requires experimenting. And some of these techniques, like meditation or changing your self-talk, they definitely require practice to become truly effective. They don't always work perfectly the first time.
That's such an important reminder, isn't it? It's not like you listen to this and suddenly you have to master all, 18 things by tomorrow. It's more like looking at this menu of options we've just explored and thinking, okay, based on what I'm dealing with or what feels most doable right now, which one or two could I maybe try? The key thing is just starting that process, experimenting, seeing what clicks, and gradually adding tools to your personal toolkit.
That's the core message, absolutely. Building your own personalized, flexible stress relief kit, tailored just for your life, your needs.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given us, and hopefully you listening, a ton of practical, evidence-backed ways to think about and manage stress. From those quick mental shifts and physical releases, right through to building lifelong habits and even making strategic changes to your situation.
And just remembering that keeping stress at a manageable level, it isn't just about feeling a bit better in the moment. The sources really drive home that it's absolutely crucial for your overall health, your well-being in the long run.
So, thinking about everything we've explored today, all these potential tools, from simple breathing tricks, those mental vacations, to longer-term things like yoga or gratitude, even the surprising idea that coloring complex patterns can be meditative. What's maybe one small strategy, perhaps one that surprised you or just felt particularly accessible from what we discussed? What's one thing you might try integrating into your day, maybe even starting today, and just notice how might that single step begin to shift your own experience